Or were you just interested in the music?
So a friend said, "Oh, I've got a spare ticket to this festival."
Oh, great.
And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come." And now she's ill,
perfect.
so she's not
Hello,
here.
come on over. This is Talkaoke. We've already started, so come on over. Come on over, take a seat. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Take a seat. Look, we got some seats for you. You're gonna join in. Everything's set up.
I haven't set up this one yet, but
What?
I thought I would. I just turn this down a little touch. I thought I would just come over and because I'm not really.
Hello, come on over. Take a seat.
I know this sounds weird, but I like music, but I don't understand.
Come on over. Take a seat.
This passion, this excitement people have for musicians, and for me, any music is good. So I don't get this thing where people get really obsessed about bands or really obsessed about, travelling across the country to go and see a particular band. I don't get it.
Okay. Are you obsessed about a particular kind of music?
I get obsessed with individual songs and then listen to them on repeat for hours and hours, which I think is really weird and a bit unhealthy. But I know what you mean, people get really into a specific one and it's less about the music and more about all the kind of branding that goes with it. When we were children, people used to become a fan of a particular band like Backstreet Boys, so then they'd buy every magazine that the Backstreet Boys was in and stuff like that. I did not do that.
So, do you get obsessed with particular songs too?
I mean, I do, but I just I haven't bought any music, I don't think, for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So I just listen to it on YouTube or illegal MP3s. I don't actually ever buy any music as such. I used to have a record collection, but all my records are from the 90s. So it's like a history piece, really, because I haven't. And even if I want to play any of those records, I just play it on my laptop from YouTube or Spotify if I've got a free trial period. But
do you still buy music? Sorry? Do you still buy music? Yeah, do you buy any physical medium? Take a seat. This is Talkaoke, where right now we're talking about how we engage with music. How do we buy music? Do we get really crazy about bands or sing? Sorry, what's your name again?
Anna Maria.
Anna Maria said that she gets really crazy about one particular song and listens to it on repeat. I totally do that too. What's your name?
James.
Hello, James. I'm Bina, Anna Maria, and this is
Mikey.
Okay. So.
No, I think I used to buy records and CDs a lot, but maybe because I live in a rented place, it's kind of a hassle to carry everything around. So I generally just listen to stuff on Spotify, and then I go through periods of listening to one album or two albums quite a lot and obsessively, and then I might forget that they exist, and then discover them again 4 months later, which is quite nice.
Are you hooked on something right now?
There's an album called Doggerel by Fontaines DC who I've listened to quite a lot. It's like an Irish kind of punk band.
Irish punk? Okay.
Yeah, it's quite good.
What are the songs that you're hooked on at the moment?
I had a bit of a flashback to the first album I ever bought, which was Boy's Own Different Beat, and I was listening to it because it just brought back memories. So one of the songs on there I was playing on repeat on the train on the way here.
Oh, cool. What are you listening to right now, Mick?
I just turn on the radio basically, 90, unless I'm in a party and I'm just doing YouTube DJing, which I only do as a last resort when the music's so shit that somebody has to take control. Apart from that, I just listen to the radio. I like the idea of hearing other people's taste in music because I think I hate Spotify and all these things where it decides on some algorithm what you like, and generally when I go on Spotify it just plays Leonard Cohen songs. But I like other things apart from Leonard Cohen. I do like Leonard Cohen, but I mean
it's not really
very
music,
imaginative.
Is it?
It's not very. The computer is not very imaginative.
Right.
It just goes. It draws the most obvious connections, I think, and that's a bit sad, really.
What? can you do you use Spotify or this kind of medium?
I do, but I agree with you. It's really nice to have the radio on and actually. Sorry, I can hold this.
You can hold it.
Yeah, it's really nice to have the radio on and actually listen to what somebody else is interested in. It's like in the evenings on 6 sometimes there's quite good stuff, and yeah, you'll hear a lot of bands that you otherwise wouldn't have heard, and definitely Spotify wouldn't have. It's fine, but I don't think it's good for that at all. I agree.
What do the algorithms suggest for you in Spotify?
It really depends what I've been listening to just then. Like it might suggest stuff that you might well like, but only if it's similar to stuff that you've been listening to. Whereas with a radio show.
Don't be afraid. This is Talkaoke. We're a friendly talk show. Take a seat. You're gonna be fine.
I know.
All right, they are. Excuse me.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. Just with a radio show, you'll hear something that you otherwise never would have heard. I think.
True. Yeah.
What music do you like?
What music do you like? Do you want to join in? We're talking about music. All right. You can come back and talk to us about music. So I was going to ask you, do you use this kind of medium like Spotify or other providers like this?
Yeah, like I always use Spotify absolutely all the time. And then before that I don't know, that's probably why I got into listening to the same songs on repeat, because I couldn't afford to buy loads and loads of music. And also loads of the radio stations, especially ones they listen to at work, they play the same kind of songs quite a lot, so it's not that surprising. Like I need to find new radio stations, probably internet underground ones, which have more varied taste. And like in the office sometimes they listen to Classic FM, and the other day they were playing the Wedding March. Like I thought that was really bizarre. I'm working and it's like dun 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 dun. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, that's really weird.
You know what I find weird is people wearing headphones.
Really?
Yeah, like
How's that?
I live in
Come
Hackney.
over. Do you want to
Come and
take
have a
a seat?
seat.
We're
Do
talking
you wear
about music.
headphones?
Do you?
I find it really weird because like people, like I live near to a canal, and people go jogging along the canal, and like 75 to 8% of them wear headphones, and they're like,
Come on, help.
they're just.
Do you wear headphones? What?
I find it weird. I find it almost like insulting to me
Come on over, take a seat.
that they don't want to be in my world. They want to be in their own world.
Hello, this is Talkaoke. We're talking about headphones right now and the way people relate to music. Do you want to join in? Come on over, take a seat.
We've got Anne-Marie, we've got, what's your name? James.
I'm Bina, this is Mikey.
Mikey, yeah.
Who are you?
Hi, my name's Ben.
Take a seat. Hello, what's your name, please?
I'm Satori.
Hi, Satori. Take a seat. I'm Bina. So, do you like to wear headphones when you're walking through the city or when you're on the tube, maybe?
I do, yes. I'm not sure I'd say I'd like to wear headphones, but I do wear headphones. So
why do you wear them?
Well, just in order to listen to music, because it's one of my main times when I'm able to listen to music really at a pleasant volume. So
what's the kind of occasion that you do?
Well, more or less any time when I'm walking around somewhere on my own, and I walk to work, so that's, I've got an hour or so every day walking back and forth where I can
that's quite
just have the headphones in and catch up on some music listening, so that's what I tend to do. Yeah.
So we were just talking about how people relate to the environment or don't relate to the environment with or without the headphones. Do you wear headphones?
Yes, I do. I just when I walk around listening to the music. That's it.
Anybody use headphones to listen to audiobooks or stuff like that? Yeah, you do?
Yeah, I actually recently rented an audiobook from the library, and it comes like to your computer and then disappears after the borrowing time. I don't know how it does that. That's kind of cool. And it was Leonard Cohen's poems, actually.
Oh.
And there was this one which was so intense, and I really wanted to talk about it with my friends, and then I was at a party and I waited till everyone was depressed about something else and then brought it up, because I was a bit like, because it was a bit of a downer, but that was a really good audiobook. And also I listened to TED Talks on my headphones as well.
Do you do this kind of thing? Do you listen to other stuff than music on your headphones?
Yeah, I listen to podcasts quite a lot. Just
what kind of podcasts do you listen to?
Film ones, a couple of comedy ones, some politics ones. But yeah, I'd like to do that on the tube or like when I'm bored. But I cycle to work and I sometimes listen to stuff. But then I also think sometimes it's quite nice not to have them in, because then I do notice more things about my surroundings. Like you were talking about the joggers in Hackney, like especially near the canal.
But it is Hackney.
Oh, sorry. No, you said you live in Hackney. Yeah, honestly, I didn't just guess. But yeah, I would never listen to them like running alongside the canal, just because you're asking to be like accidentally like knocked in or whatever. Like, yeah, and also when I'm cycling in London, like you have to ding your bell at people, and sometimes they're just like completely oblivious and in their own little world. I've had to like push someone out the way to stop crashing into them. So yeah, headphones are great, but also occasionally irritating.
Come on over, take a seat. This is Talkaoke.
Hi guys.
Hey there, take a seat.
Oh, is that okay? I'll see you there.
With the question.
Oh yeah, they're off now.
I think if John Cage was still alive, he'd be turning in his. Well, no, that doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, John Cage will be turning in his tray, trying to get out. But anyway, you know, his whole thing was like the music of just, you know, I mean, here obviously we've got music, but like last night when all the music died, there was a few birds in the trees down there and stuff like that, and not just birds in the trees, like, you know, reversing vans or kids playing. It's just sounds, and I think we just, I don't know, we just cut that out a little bit.
What are your favourite sounds, Mikey? Like random sounds?
Well, I hate the sound of vans reversing, actually. I try and sort of like go, this is part of the universe, and you know, this is just a natural part of the universe, the van reversing. I live like, it's a much kind of deeper story, because I'm like the chair of my local residents committee, and then the council came and said we're going to close off your street, and I'm like, what about all the vans that will then have to reverse out of the street early in the morning? And there's no, it won't be a problem. And then like every single fucking day there's a fucking van reversing at 6 o'clock in the morning out of my street. But you know, I try to just not be angry about it and be calm and accept it as part of the universe.
Do you have any favorite random sounds that the universe gives to us?
Favorite random sounds?
Yeah.
You put me on the spot there. I can't immediately think of any. Don't have anything very profound to say on the subject. I do occasionally like lying on the floor and just listening to the sounds around the urban environment. You know, planes overhead and people talking outdoors, and you know, we do get some bird song as well. So, you know, nice mix of sounds, but that's probably something anyone can, you know, claim they do at some point in their lives. So that's
yeah, I mean, this kind of background sound sometimes is kind of relaxing too, isn't it? Like last night I was listening to the festival sound. Like it's kind of nice, actually. Do you have some favorite sounds?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, bars and also like waterfalls.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's nice.
those water sounds quite nice. I think it's really relaxing and like monotonous, like, you know, like repetitive.
Yeah.
Sound. I like it. Yeah.
Were you gonna say something?
No, just birds.
I heard it. Do you have a favorite sound, like a random sound from the environment?
I found when I looked up Tumble and Fall on Spotify, it had Tumble Dryer as a track, and it was the sound of a tumble dryer. That was alright. I didn't know why it was on Spotify though. I did also listen to Tumble and Fall by Feeder, which was the point of.
What? Oh yeah.
But I've got a point as well,
Yeah.
which is like all those things, people listen to them to go to sleep. Like there's a thing where people listen to certain sounds. Like there's one of somebody just playing with a crisp packet for hours on end. And people listen to these sounds, it helps them go to sleep.
Do you have sounds that help you go to sleep?
Well, I recently moved somewhere quite near the train tracks in London, so I guess I find that quite soothing, actually. That because, well, also drowns out the foxes if they're being quite noisy, as they often are. But no, it's really nice, and even the fast train that like slightly rattles the house. It's
You don't get rattled by it.
no, I don't get rattled by the rattling. Yeah, no, it's I quite like the sound of trains passing. It just reminds me there's lots of other people around, and that they're all going about their business, and reminds you not to get too caught up in your own head.
No, something, yeah. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, pretty much. I do often, well, not often anymore, but I used to often listen to white noise to go to sleep.
Oh, really?
Which is a tip I learned at university when obviously other people are being noisy. But you tune the radio to a random frequency and turn the bass on your stereo up to maximum and the treble to minimum, and it's just very nice.
Oh.
It's just a kind of constant tone, and it becomes a bit like the waves on the sea, and it's very nice for drifting off to sleep. Although some people don't agree.
Do you have a sound like that for going to sleep?
I don't know. I just come up with.
Okay.
I really like the.
Maybe final thoughts before you leave? Thank you.
I really like a kind of recorded sound. I mean, like when I see movies, and I kind of obsessed with the sound of kind of random. I don't know, paper touching something, and I don't know, kind of noise. It's kind of I hear that a bit different from the natural sound. So I like with the filter or something recorded sound. I really like them, like those random people's sound. Like activity sounds, like walking and with the heels and everything in the movies. Yeah, I really like it.
Do you work with music?
Music? Yes, yeah.
Are you a musician? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
we just played.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So.
How did it go? Did it go well? Was it a good audience?
I hope it was okay.
No, it's great.
It was okay. Yeah. I hope so.
So do you think it's as a musician you have a different way of relating to sounds than other people?
Not sure. Maybe. I think so. Maybe. I can't explain that. But.
Do you use random sounds in your music?
Not really. But I will try. Yeah. I should do that actually. Yeah. I like kind of using pedals and making some noise and stuff too. So yeah, maybe I can try that more kind of natural sound into the music. Yeah.
You were saying that you actually compose some songs too, right? Have you ever thought of using some sounds with it? Hello.
I did do a workshop once at Kew Gardens where we made like soundscapes from just recording sounds from the environment. That was really fun.
We're not allowed to do it. Yes, we are. No, Alison said no.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like the instruments to speak for themselves. Like earlier today, I was making an instrument at the instrument making workshop, and that was really fun because I've always wanted to make my own instrument. Yeah, sorry, I forgot one.
Do you want to talk with us about instruments and music? Okay.
I remember when I was a kid, I was very proud. I made a yogurt pot with some seeds in it. It was a little shaker.
Oh yeah.
I think I did it when I was about 5, so younger than these kids. I wonder if they've made one.
Come on, take a seat. We're talking about instruments.
Have you ever made your own instrument? What have you made?
Come on over.
That's how it's done.
Tell us. Hello, what's your name, please?
Tom.
Tom. Hi, I'm Bina. This is Anna.
Hello.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I've gone blank.
Do you have a final thought?
Final thoughts? I don't know.
About music or instruments or sounds?
Sounds. It's too sudden. I don't know.
Hey there.
We have cats, and I like their meows.
Oh yeah, that's a nice sound.
Yeah. Apparently cats, that's human language for cats. So cats don't meow to each other. They only meow. There's like them trying to talk, basically. Like, so when they go meow, they're actually trying to just say hello in human language.
They're silent when they're cats are silent when there are no humans around. They're well, apart from hisses if they're fighting, but yeah.
Sorry, I used to have a cat, so I always talk to my cat like this. They look at you. What you do is you kind of do that. They don't really recognise these ears. They're not big enough. So you sort of like you have to kind of go like this, and then look to the side, and then look back again, and that means you're being friendly. It just works with cats. Maybe they just think, "What's that funny human doing?" But it works. It works.
He's got kind of an accent,
just like
that guy.
Yeah.
Hey there, take a seat. This is Talkaoke. That's good. Thank you, bye bye. What are your names?
Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Rachel.
Hi, I'm Bina. You are?
Tom.
Tom.
Anna Maria.
Anna Maria. Mikey.
Mikey.
So we were talking about instruments that we make ourselves, but now we're all also talking about cats. So let's go back to the instrument quickly, and then we're going to find out where we're going to go with this.
Oh, so I made a theremin years ago.
Oh, really? That's interesting, impressive.
But
Can you explain what a theremin is for maybe somebody?
So you wave your hand at it and the pitch changes.
How does it look like?
The one I made is a big wooden box, like an old cigar box, and a little metal pole, and I just got a big bit of metal, like an antenna on the top. And
how do you play it?
kind of like this.
That's amazing. How do you make it?
I kind of do electronics, so it's kind of a bit of a hobby.
Okay, cool. And did you use it for playing in a band or?
No, just for fun at home.
I've seen some really good, loads of really bad theremin performances, but some people can get it right. But the great thing about it is like half dance, half music, because people kind of go like this, and it goes woo, and it can be really good, but it's really hard, I think, to get it done well.
I have to say this. I have a friend who plays the theremin with her breasts. So she calls herself Lyric Tits, and it's amazing. It really is really cool. Have you ever seen anybody playing the theremin?
Yeah, not with their boobs. I think I'd be interested to see that too.
It's really cool.
But yeah, I like watching
recommend.
people play the theremin. There's something really relaxing, I guess, also about that kind of movement or choreography and creating sound. It's really nice. Yeah.
Do you like the theremin sound?
I do. It's got like a nice sort of. It's just got like an old-fashioned sci-fi aesthetic. I think that's what I quite like. The sort of 70s sci-fi vibe. Like you should be wearing a tinfoil suit while you're playing it as well.
Have you ever made an instrumental yourself?
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever made an instrument from scratch. No. Just made noises with existing things, maybe.
You do?
Yeah.
What kind of noises do you make?
Not as like a pastime, but just, the tapping on the table, tapping on the glasses, that kind of thing, definitely. But no, I've never actually manufactured anything from scratch. But
Have you?
Yeah, I've got one that's undergo in our kitchen at the moment, which is made out of like a big bread bin, like a big round bread bin, and a fishing reel and a string, like a neck, like a guitar, with a single string. So it's I guess it's like a banjo kind of banjo hurdy-gurdy kind of thing, but I'm building it from scratch. It's the first instrument I've ever made.
Wow.
But then yesterday I got to make a drone here, which was really good. Essentially this will be a drone thing, I guess.
Cool.
Just trying it out, see how it goes.
What was the instrument that you were building in the workshop?
It was basically a giant twig which I made into a kind of stringed instrument, which I played like a violin like this.
Okay. Did you get to play it?
Yeah, I recorded myself playing it, or I asked someone to video me playing it. I need to give it a name though, like other than twig, which I play like a violin.
Cool.
Twiggling. Maybe. Don't know. That's one idea.
Hello there.
Hey.
We got a new face here. What's your name, please?
I'm Melvin.
Hello,
I'm Melvin.
This is Mikey. I'm Bina. You are? Matt. Rachel.
Tom.
Anna Maria.
So right now we're talking about self-made instruments. Have you ever made an instrument yourself?
No.
No? We were talking about the theremin before and some crazy theremin performances that we've seen. Maybe you want to explain again what a theremin is? Maybe you've seen it before. You might.
They're kind of like you've got antennas that stick out and you wave your hands around. Yeah.
And you don't touch it. It just, yeah?
It's good.
Just combining it with the cat subject, I wonder if you could train a cat to play a theremin. That I think would be quite instrumental. Like wow, wow. It's kind of like a kind of electronic cat sound noise anyway.
Yeah,
so they
sure.
might relate. I don't know. I'm sure on YouTube somewhere there's a cat playing a theremin. I'm even going to look now and find out.
Say again?
Yeah, we were just saying, he was saying that cats can play the piano, and I said maybe in like Disney Aristocrats, and he said no, he knows a cat who plays piano, and I said toddlers kind of crawl along pianos too, and then I'm thinking I shouldn't compare toddlers to cats because I've done that before and with my sister.
What did she say?
And I just like I have friends who have cats, I have nieces, sometimes they come up in the same conversation, it might be offensive.
Well, why would it be offensive?
Just comparing a little child to a little cat, maybe. I don't know. I don't have children.
I'm interested in people who have pets instead of children as well. So like the thing of the cat becomes the baby or the puppy becomes the baby in this kind of way. And I wonder where that comes from. I'd be intrigued to find out from other people where that idea comes from or that thing.
Do you have another thought about that?
I'm quite always curious about the very human idea that humans are not part of nature, and that's because something's not human that it doesn't somehow can be categorized as less important. So a cat or a kid, it's like still a life force. So what's the difference?
Cats are more furry.
Thank you. Bye bye. Final thought about the cats or the babies or the theremin?
Oh, I think it's just like a trial run for little kids. I think people want to try out. It's like see if they're going to be a good parent, give them a cat, and then see if that works. Then go for a baby.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Bye bye. So.
I'm more interested in sort of the other way around, because the thing is about cats, I used to have a cat with my girlfriend, and it's very low maintenance, the cat, because the cat kind of does its own thing. And with a dog, I always sort of worry that am I not giving the dog enough attention, am I leaving it at home? But the cat is just like, yeah, whatevs, the cat does its own thing. So I wonder if you could sort of engineer a child to be a bit more self-sufficient and require a little bit less. The thing about having kids is it's a lot of input.
What do you think?
I think like culturally, maybe in this country, there's a lot of there's a lot less of that self-sufficiency. Like I was reading a thing recently about like Steiner education and kindergarten and things like that. And that one of the kind of movements there was around this thing of like, can you get kids from a quite a young age to be way more self-sufficient and way more like building stuff for themselves and making things for themselves and basic things like tidying up or feeding themselves or like this. But so maybe it's a cultural thing also, like in this country.
But how do you think? I mean, what? Thanks. What kind of what should be different for so that kids would be more self-sufficient? Come on over, bloody libertarian. Sit with us. Talk about it.
I don't know exactly what would make kids more self-sufficient. Being hungrier? Don't know.
I've heard that in Germany, sort of like in the children from about 4 until 8 in their schools, they don't actually teach them lessons. They play in forests and do all sorts of things like that. And I think
Not
that's meant to
true.
encourage. Is that?
I'm
is that-
German.
Is that true?
It's not true. It's actually from 3 to 6.
From 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Unnecessary facts in the middle of the table.
Yeah. I'm
So
sorry.
3. So,
I had to say that. I'm German.
so from 3. So from 3 to 6. No, it's good. So from 3 to 6.
They're
You
kind of free to play. Yeah.
That's what you do in kindergarten. Did you think that made you more independent? What effect do you think that had on you?
Well, I don't really have a comparison because I'm me. Anyway.
Would you categorise yourself as quite independent?
Well, yeah. But maybe it's not necessarily because I was brought up there. I don't know. What do you
I
think?
was asked once in a Sainsbury's job interview, what if I could be an animal, what would I be? And I said domestic cat, because I thought it was a good answer because they're quite independent, but they go back to their home and they do what they're told generally. And they're like, oh, thank you for not saying lion. And I was like, well, why would anyone in a Sainsbury's interview say lion? Like that's a bit ridiculous. But what was I going to say? Yeah, I think.
I'm just going to say, you should. Yeah, lying in your interview is very bad.
Why is it bad? In what way?
No, that's a gag. Lying in your lying.
So they actually told you that you were supposed to say
they,
lion?
No, they said thank you for not saying lion.
Ah,
So
okay.
apparently lots of people did say lion.
Ah, I see.
But I think it's interesting, like comparing yourself to an animal, because like I did this whole like art project on like these pictures of ballet dancers as Galapagos animals doing different mating rituals. Like, so they would like in the blue-footed booby dance, there would be like the male doing the dance and the female just receiving the twig as a gift, because that's what the birds do. And like humans, like seem to be more affected by like other things other than their instincts now. You can like do what, like, yeah, going into a different topic now.
That's all right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, in certain places there's freedom to be yourself and do what you want to do, and there's not just one specific human instinct and human ritual when it comes to mating. So it's not like, unless it's probably the same with animals, but at the moment the way we see it, like the scientists say, well, this animal, the male does this and the female does that, full stop, and in that species the male does this and the female does that. But with humans we're like blurring the boundaries.
Because I think it's interesting what the aspects of what you're saying, the instinct part on a human as opposed to the instinct part on an animal, because in animals their instinct part seems to be quite clear, while in humans then on top of the instinct part there's a lot of noise going on in their minds saying all these stories and stuff. And when you're saying about the narrative of what a man or a woman does, that's stories that humans say, and also it's very not necessarily based on nature. It's just people tend to look at the bits of nature that they like and say, oh, animals do this, and ignore the other bits. But I think it's really interesting the confusion on top of our instincts as opposed to animals. But then I don't know, animals might be really confused. Don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree that like the way that we talk about or look at animal behaviour is often just really to either help enforce a set of rules that are already existing in society, and I think it probably is really like selective, like the idea of this, you know, the idea of kind of, we've studied these birds and this is exactly what they do in every single case, and the male always acts in this way and the female always acts in this way. I guess it's like stories like that help to help humans police other humans about interaction or how things should be.
I think it comes down to this whole thing about what is natural and what's not natural. If an animal does it, then it's natural. If an animal doesn't do it, then it's not natural. You know, I mean, what is natural? And we're animals, so everything we do is natural, be it like listening to Spotify or, you know, mass genocide or baking a cake. It's all natural. It's just as you say, is what we want to use as an argument to justify. Like now, I mean, I think it's quite sweet, but suddenly everyone's talking about the gay penguins. I mean, they're cute, the gay penguins, but it's just like almost sort of buying into this argument that, you know, that you're you need to be a bit more natural. So if there's gay penguins, bang, homosexuality is more natural.
We have a new face, so let's say hello. Who are you?
Hello, I'm Jack.
Hi, I'm Bina. This is
Anna Maria.
I'm Melvin.
Mikey.
Matt.
Rachel.
And right now, this is Talkaoke, so we're talking about different topics. Right now, we're talking about what is natural. We're talking about mating of animals and humans, and are humans part of nature, or so.
Because I think that's really fascinating, because I think what I was saying about the narrative and how the narrative's changed, there's a wonderful documentary about gay animals, basically, and how sort of like the documentaries of the dolphins that like to stick holes in all sorts of places, and the bulls that do sodomy and all that type of that animal traits, animal sexual behaviours, like there's lots of them, but a lot of them just don't make it onto the TV screens, and then people believe what the narrative that's given on the TV screen, although it might be very censored, and think that's what nature is, but there's just loads of stuff that's just not shown on the TV, because they go, oh yes, they do that, but we wouldn't show it. And it was a very unsettling documentary, because this person wanted to show some politician who was anti-gay these videos of lots of animals, gay animals having, and it was like, why? And she was just sitting there going, why are you showing me this video? Why are you?
So you're basically saying that all the natural the nature documentaries are censored then?
I don't know if it's, I wouldn't say necessarily censored. I'd say there's have a bias, because I think probably they go, oh look, those cute little monkeys, those cute little chimpanzees are tearing apart little other animals. Oh, let's not necessarily put that in. Or oh look, that nice little cat. I think they go, oh. So I don't know if necessarily censored.
So you had a thought there, and then it's Mikey.
Okay, cool.
So it was on the Graham Norton show many years ago that it's illegal in a state in America to have sex with a goldfish. So
sex with a goldfish. Can you explain more?
I didn't actually see the show. I just heard it was on Graham Norton many years ago. So presumably it had been tried, and presumably it hadn't worked out, and they had to make a rule against it.
All right.
I mean, there's a thing about the lions. I can't remember which African country it was that's got lions, and they'd observed the male lions having sex with each other, and the kind of one of the ministers said, "Oh, they've got that from the gay tourists. They've copied it from the tourists." And I think that kind of says everything about like our whole concept of what's natural and what's right, mixed in with and it changes all the time. So I'm sure no one would have said that. Like maybe there weren't as many gay tourists 50 years ago, but
can you think of other examples of things that maybe were now are supposed to be natural, and then anyway, you had something.
I was going to talk about gay sheep.
Yeah.
Which is like another one of these kind of documentaries of like the gayest animals in the world ever, or whatever, classic TV that you could watch on a Saturday. But one of the things in that was kind of interesting was that the gay sheep in the flock, because it was like a breeding flock, were like useless. So to the people who owned the sheep, they wanted the sheep to reproduce as often as possible, and so the deal wasn't so much like whether this was a negative or a positive in terms of like homosexuality or sexual attraction. It was more about like the use value of that particular like sheep in that context, which I was then just like, oh yeah, this is bleak, because how much of these things are a part of our society as well. Like, why is that part of these narratives? Or
Hello. I don't know how to explain this necessarily, but like it seems kind of unfair that you'd have to justify your existence of being like a gay person by looking at like what's natural. Like there's tons of things that are like natural that we think are wrong, or we talk about being wrong. Like everything, I guess, is in some way natural, unless it's supernatural. I don't know, like it seems like kind of weird to have to point at like, I mean, there's loads of things that I guess come naturally to people that are totally wrong, and like we would like, so it seems more about like it's an excuse. Like that's the thing that someone uses. It's not natural when they want to, like, I don't know, post-rationalize their like feelings about a certain person or a certain group. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And who actually gets to decide what's natural and what's not?
Yeah, it seems kind of strange.
I just wanted to say two things. First off, to you, when you were talking about the gay sheep, apparently turkeys don't have sex anymore because we've bred them so they've got such big breasts that physically they can't actually get together, and actually so we're having there was these sort of like, so what you're saying about the interest of the gay our desires for turkeys or sheep and stuff is having, I don't know quite what I'm trying to say, but what you were saying made me think of that thing. And what you're saying about, I think it's really interesting that I think some people are very interested in other people's or animals' sex and what they're doing, and it's like, why?
I mean, I know for bulls can't have sex.
What?
Bulls, the male cows, because they're too beefy to actually climb now on top of the female cow. So they have to. There's all these different techniques of wanking off the sheep, and there's like a robot one as well. I'm not sheep, the bulls, but they're dependent now on humans for their reproduction, and it's a very weird. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that film, Our Daily Bread, and it's all about the food industry, like the modern food industry, and they've got this bull wanking thing going on.
That's quite natural there.
Yeah, but it's natural for us.
Yeah, I think that. So, like my granny had a like dairy farm, and so that sense of like the AI man coming round. So that's the thing of, they didn't even have a bull on the farm. They would just have the fella coming round who had previously wanked off a bull, and artificially inseminating the cows, but artificially inseminating them so that they would become pregnant and have a calf, but mainly for milk production again. So it's not even the calf is like a byproduct, and milk is the goal in that kind of situation. So I guess it's, yeah, like as humans, the weird things that we do to animals, like for our own kind of benefit. I know I'm using that in inverted commas, but that sense of like, that would definitely be, so in my granny's situation, it would be in her benefit, that would be her livelihood to have cows that produced milk, and that could only come through the AI man visiting, which makes it always hilarious now that artificial intelligence is like what gets abbreviated as AI, because I can only go to insemination in my brain. That's all it goes.
Okay, so we have two new faces, and then we're going to take your thoughts and your thoughts.
Hi, I'm Ross.
Hi, Ross.
Hi, I'm Iris.
Hi, Iris. I'm Bina. I'm going to do a round again.
Mikey.
Matt.
Rachel.
Jack.
Anna Maria.
Melvin.
So we've been talking about what is natural and what humans are doing to animals in order to get more of them. And you wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to say on that same point, I think there's some like training manuals you have to read if you're going to be one of these people that one of the things is you have to like pleasure the cow. Yeah. In order for it to like successfully take, or that it would increase your chances of it successfully taken. So like, and if you think about that, like if anyone else did that out with the industry, then it would be like really, like, I mean, similar to like I don't know, like the homicidal triad. Like if you have a child that kills an animal, it would be like an indication of them being possibly like homicidal in the future. Like same with bedwetting and arson. But like we will employ like a 16-year-old to kill 1,000 cows on the cut floor, and like not seem to have a problem with that or what it might do to somebody. And similarly, they're also like, I don't know, raping the cows as well, which is kind of crazy.
I think the narrative that we put around things, it's really curious. Like, so the interview question, would they say, "Oh, I want to be a lion"? what would they say about the interview question? But what would they say in the interview? Anyway, but when you're saying about AI, artificial intelligence, is because sort of like for reasons of why a species has invented artificial intelligences that are getting really super intelligent. And at present, we've got algorithms that are in computers and all sorts of stuff, but they're in the dating apps, and so they're sort of like matching people, so they're doing sort of like, so artificial insemination, the man was doing it, but sort of like on a dating app, there's an algorithm going, oh, that person will like that person, and oh, so I'm not quite sure what to think about that. So AI might still be
I like the kind of weird idea of how those two things. It's a good business startup idea. I reckon. Take it to Silicon Valley and someone will bite your arm off.
But the dating apps, they use algorithms to match people. So lots of people nowadays are meeting their partners online, and that who they've been matched to has been by an algorithm which is going, oh, they made those cute little fluffy dogs. What can we do with those humans? Ooh.
I mean, apparently, I read this article saying that Tinder has done more in the US to address racism than pretty much any other initiative, because that it's encouraged people of different races to actually go out with each other, and they may or may not kind of form a long-term relationship, but they're actually mixing much more, and I don't know if that's because of an algorithm or just by chance, or the fact that actually it's kind of pushing people a little bit further to go outside of their normal racial group. And so
Sorry. There's an issue as well, though, isn't there, with racist algorithms, where there's a lot of issues, I think, particularly with Google, like even things with, I can't remember where we were, but we saw someone talking about the voice-activated things, where you need to speak in a certain voice to make voice-activated things work, and they're not catering for different people from different backgrounds and things like that. So through constant use of voice activation stuff, people are relearning the way they speak. We saw this woman talking about how when she's in a car with her child, she's having to speak in like a clipped, more pronounced accent, and then she's thinking like then or particular vocabulary, and then it's like, that's not how I speak, and I'm in my car a lot with my child. Now they're hearing this, and like, how much are they going to pick up from that? So the algorithm's even changing the way people may speak and converse with each other.
I think that's the kind of meme in Scotland as well, like that you the lift thing, that you like, it doesn't pick up your accent, so you've got to speak in the English accent or whatever else in order to
So what do you do then?
I don't know if it actually, like, you don't get voice activated lifts or whatever now, I don't know, but like I don't really often use it, but I imagine there's like, it's the same all over. I think that's maybe more just like an exaggerated meme to show this kind of problem that happens.
Because I think it's really fascinating if there's artificial intelligence and has it taken over, because training, like humans being trained to do random. It's like if we did that to a dog, it'd go, oh, we've trained that dog to speak in this way or do this, but we're going, oh, that's convenient for us, and we're doing stuff that you wouldn't naturally.
Yeah, I think I went to this thing on artificial intelligence at the V&A, and they had like a play mat with some model cars, and then like they had pre-programmed like the cars, so they would just drive, and then there was this other thing where it like register what you look like and then decided how old you were, and it's like we're giving away the power to the machine, and whoever's like controlling the machine how far can the machine go without like having a mind of its own.
What do you think?
At first I thought it can't have a mind of its own, and it'll always be what we tell it to be, but then now I'm not so sure, because like for instance social media wasn't intended to turn out the way that it has when it was like it took on its own form, so like maybe artificial intelligence could take on its own form that we can't actually predict.
What do you think?
Oh, I think that idea, like you were saying, of like how things are being told what to do, or that idea, so that works for like procedural computing. So that works for the one where it's like typing into the calculator on your phone. I type in 1 + 4 = 5, but AI, I guess, is about like creating a thing that learns and that learns by itself. But the problems with a lot of that is that the training data that is being used, or those data sets, reflect our current reality and our current, all of the problems that we have in our current reality. So that sense of like the voice recognition, if the dominant voice is one that sounds and speaks English in a particular way, then you're going to keep repeating and repeating and repeating. Or similar, you know, happens with like imaging and all of these different kind of data sets, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think that artificial intelligence is anywhere close to taking us over or to being that powerful. Like, it goes back to how we started off this whole conversation about Spotify. It can't go, oh, you like Leonard Cohen, therefore you're going to like Turkish folk music, because it's just too much of a jump. It's too imaginative. They're not imaginative, these things. But going back to the thing about the data sets, like, we quite often when we do Talkaoke, we visualize the Talkaoke, we download images to illustrate the points people make and put them on the screen really quickly. Too expensive for this particular gig, but you know, it's available if you talk to anyway. But the point is, when we did Black History Month, like, we were talking about like black businessmen or, you know, professionals, and then Rick, that does the visualization, he just downloads like searches for businessman and like, or doctor, and like, it's really, really hard to find the non-European people, never mind, you know, this was black people especially, but it's like all the kind of generic ideas are embedded into that data. You know, when you type in doctor or when you type in politician, you get a white person.
And that's the same if you type in like beautiful skin or skin products or, you know, look fantastic. That's basically the first 4 or 5 pages. I mean, is it natural? No. Have we made it? Yes. Is making stuff natural? Yes. Is sort of relying on those things to do so much for you natural? I think that's maybe how much do we want to do and how much do we want to rely on a tool that we've made?
Because I think I disagree fundamentally with you about how artificial intelligence works, because it is all about the training and how it's trained. We don't actually program it. It just needs lots of information, and it decides all sorts of things and works out all sorts of things for itself. And luckily, it's got the whole of the internet, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to play with. And I don't know. I have no idea what. I'm a human. I wouldn't be able to sift through that data and make connections and stuff like. I've got no idea what it will see or think or perceive. And then also, like, at present, hopefully we've still got some power and autonomy, but maybe we feed on the media. We're influenced by the media, the images in the media and stuff like that. But I don't know how much of that's being influenced by. I don't know what it's been influenced by.
Okay, we got many opinions here. You were first, I think.
I think you were in first.
You were? Okay.
I guess like the complicated, like when you were saying like, oh, you think it's quite far off or like not possible or like there wouldn't be creative, like I think you would then need to say that there's like something that exists out with the brain of a human that makes them human, like something in some way supernatural in some sense, and like that couldn't exist within a computer brain. And like I think maybe I wouldn't necessarily believe that or like wouldn't feel that. So I think they definitely could have full consciousness at some point or something like it, I don't know. And I think that's kind of worrying, and like especially when you have people like Elon Musk that are like talking about like neural implants in the brain that essentially give our brains to AI in future possibly. It's like kind of scary or mad.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea as well of like what are the human things that we can do to change the situation or to address the situation. And so like what Mikey was saying about when you do that kind of stock image search, so maybe what we need to do is make a whole lot of new images, and then we need to spend quite a lot of time doing metadata, because it's like metadata is the stuff that that AI will cling on to. So if we're spending longer, I like the idea of it as a kind of roguish protest, or to kind of flood the internet with images of particular things. Like Boris Johnson was doing it recently, wasn't he, with his SEO kind of, I have this new hobby of painting buses. And that a lot of people are speculating that was an attempt to kind of flood search engine optimization with, when you wrote in Boris side of a bus, that you wouldn't any longer get the Brexit bus, you would get this news report of Boris being charming, of Boris Johnson being charming and oafish and very English, in this way.
That's you, then you, then you.
I can't remember what I was going to say. You can come back to me.
Yeah, so we've come a long way from asking what is natural. We're talking about gay penguins, and now we've come around to how much artificial intelligence... yeah, exactly, how artificial intelligence is... hello there, take a seat, this is Talkaoke, where... Yeah, you can, but eventually you should take a seat and join in. I'm going to do a round so you can get to know all the people, and then take a seat and tell us your names.
I'm Melvin.
I'm Iris.
I'm Ross. Mikey.
Matt.
Rachel.
Jack.
Anna Maria, and I remembered what I was going to say. So,
take a seat.
For a while, I don't know what happened to my phone, but it kept going on to automatically listening to me and writing what I was saying on Google and I don't know what I was pressing or not pressing, and it was so my phone was listening to me, typing it into Google. I was just having normal conversations with my phone on the table. That was a little bit freaky, but then, and it's so if computers can be there with you and do all these things, I came to the conclusion that as long as we kind of live, breathe and smell, and smell seemed to be quite important to me because we go through the process of going through time, and computers, even though they go through time, they don't do those things, then we've still got a bit of humanity in us. And I don't know if that means anything as far as the computers are concerned, but we kind of see the natural world as this kind of thing which goes through processes like that and smells, and maybe the computers are the new humans who are going to do all the controlling, and we're just the animals, how we look at animals now.
Evan?
I don't know. Was I next? Was I?
Yeah, you were.
Okay.
And
I think what's natural for us humans is I don't know, because a few years ago, people would be able to wander around with their phone and not look for their phone, and I know my behaviour around my phone now is very natural to me, and that's loads of algorithms doing all sorts of scary things. And I think dogs are those little cute fluffy furry dogs that used to be wolves. They probably think, I don't know, they probably feel quite natural as a little fluffy handbag dog, but I don't know.
So just when we were talking about the AI, and all the issues that it poses, or just algorithms in general, or technology or tools, is that I feel a bit boring in saying this, but I think there needs to be much more consideration into what actually the effects are going to be. No one voted on the internet, no one had a chance to really talk about that before it happened, or I guess they did, but it wasn't I don't know, as things like self-driving cars become more of a thing, the trolley problem has become an actual issue. A car needs to, the trolley, would you change the trolley on a track to either kill one person or 5 people? Say if it's normally going to kill 5 people, would you make the decision to kill the one person, save the lives of the 5, or would you let it take its course? Something along those lines. And now we have those discussions with self-driving cars, where you would need to say, okay, it's going to crash into a car in the front, maybe possibly kill 2 people in there, or veer onto the pavement and kill 1. And these are actual issues that we're going to have to deal with, and we need much more consideration into I don't know, more discussion around this, rather than just companies bulldozing and coming up with new technologies without anyone policing it in some sense.
You were going to say?
I think I agree with you in terms of the effects of it, but I think actually, when people made other tools and things in the past, people would get injured in the production of bridges and others, and I think people do suffer as a consequence of invention and people's creation, and I think the degree of that I think is one thing. The point I really wanted to make, you mentioned smell actually, and I thought that was really interesting, because one of the things that I think we're in danger of in relying too much on a tool that's technology and the internet. I think it's always.
Excuse me, I didn't get that.
Sorry?
To rely on what?
To rely too much on a tool like technology, or the internet, then I think it's at the cost of human relationships and the cost of smelling people and being around them and listening to them and giving them time and understanding them in different ways. And I think to me that's the problem. Is not necessarily what the tool itself is what's unnatural is to lose connection with people, and that's the thing that worries me more than any sort of technology. Is it's back to the Tinder thing. That's actually really important that we can interact like that. So
are you saying that it doesn't matter what the tool does as long as it eventually brings us back together?
I think it's the effect of it, and you were talking about like the cars, but I also think if the effect of using Facebook and other stuff is reducing your ability to connect with other human beings, that should be the issue.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, we are domesticating ourselves. We're turning ourselves into pets, from the vicious wolf into the fluffy little lapdog. And the problem with all these technologies is they encourage us to think less, when actually we've got more information and we need to be thinking more. But it's really, really hard to be thinking more when everything's geared towards you thinking less.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I was just in my mind I was thinking you have to swim upstream sometimes to sort of, you have to put in that extra effort to not be lazy and not rely on the things that are right in front of you.
Can you think of an example
basically, if you sat there and looked at the amount of hours you spent on Facebook every week, you could take a decision to, if it was 3 hours a day or whatever, which some people seriously do, be like, why don't I go and volunteer for 3 hours a day and go set up a night shelter? Why don't I go and look after kids with challenging behaviour? That's a choice that we have to make. So sometimes you have to swim upstream to make those sort of choices.
Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, I am. I haven't checked it for about 9 months.
Are you on Facebook? Are you on Facebook?
No is the answer.
No. Are you on Facebook?
Theoretically.
I
have seen it. Sorry. Sometime in the past few years.
Yes, but none of my friends post much anymore. It's only like the people I'm following, like galleries and stuff, which ever post anything, people who are promoting their businesses. Like, people don't seem, it seems to be a ghost town for actual people. It's more businesses now.
Mm-hmm. Are you on Facebook?
Yeah.
Do you use it often?
Not totally often, but I guess for messaging people. I think it's a shame, as much as you can say, I don't like Facebook, I don't like this sort of thing. It's kind of this skeleton of our culture in some way. It's the way in which you interact with people, it's the way in which you get invited to things, or maybe you need an email for a job, or maybe you need a whole load of different, I don't know, you need this stuff in some way to function, so it's hard just to opt out. So it's kind of a shame, whilst I would say we should opt out when we can, or if we want, it's people rely on it, or people need it. There's definitely a bit of shit for that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you on Facebook?
I am.
Do you use it regularly?
Yeah, I use it regularly, and I would find it hard to opt out, because a lot of the things I do involve needing to communicate information to people easily and efficiently and repeatedly, and it's way more efficient for that than, it's become a backbone for a reason, I think, unfortunately, because it does serve particular needs for people who need to communicate with each other.
So you're taking off, maybe just give us some final thoughts.
Thanks for having me talk with all of you guys. Thanks for...
Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun. I didn't really know what it was when I sat down, but it was really nice.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bye-bye. Do you use Facebook?
I am on it, but I don't use it an enormous amount. The guy there was saying, where people check the time. I had that because you can check how long you're using it, and then that, which even in of itself feels problematic, it like gamified it for me of I'm probably on this too much, and then got it down to being like 3 minutes a day, and then in my head I'm like, yeah, I'm quite comfortable with that. That lets me see like what gigs are on, what my friends are like going to in my direct local area, and in terms of the rest of it, similar to like you said, there's no actual what are my friends up to. It just reminds you that you're just data now. Just going on it and seeing the things that are suggested to you and going, oh yeah, I searched for a fucking hammer last week on the internet. so now the internet, I am just this I am a hot hammer consumer, just waiting to be sold to. And you just go, that was just an example, but that thing where you're just like, oh fuck this, like.
How did you manage to cut down your usage?
Hid it off my phone home screen and just started on my breaks at work, just listening to podcasts instead. Simple as that. Half an hour a day, which would have just been spent going like that, just listening to a thing, chilling out, looking at the trees.
Okay.
I find it useful in the morning after I've had a cup of coffee, and I need to do my morning ablutions. Just scroll through. I find that really useful, the Facebook for that, definitely. But I would recommend the Estwing hammer. They're really good. I've got one. That's a good hammer.
Picking up on the point Mikey said about we have all the information of the internet, but then the algorithms and the AI and everything are making us learn less. I think that's the thing that bothers me, in that it is like an inherent contradiction, dichotomy in the whole internet thing. So I always think of it with music. So when I was a kid and you couldn't get in music on the internet, I'd get the bus from Penzance to Truro to go to the special shop in the market where you could buy the heavy metal CDs, and I bought the first Slipknot album and I got the bus all the way home. And then because of the effort of that, I listened the fuck out of it, and I really and it's ingrained into me now as a record I love, regardless of what happens. Whereas now you've got access to all the music, which is brilliant because people can discover so much more diverse and interesting things, but then it's like the double-edged thing of you've got access to all of it, but then it requires an extra, that level of the sort of toil to get the thing has gone. So I don't know if it's as appreciated as much, but it's an internal debate I have always, and I'm still not entirely sure if I think it's good or not.
Kind of brings us back to the initial topic that we started talking about music, how we relate to music, and do we still buy physical music, or do we use streaming devices? You wanted to say something?
I don't know how it ties into what you're saying, but I think the internet's full of narrative. There's loads and loads of narratives and stories on how to do things, and I'm not way back people used to go, well, they say people went and did all that hunter-gathering stuff and going and hunting for a record in a shop, but now you've got the whole of the internet, but then you've got, I don't know, is it natural for people to hunt for things, and then what do you do with hunting on the internet when everything's available? And I don't know quite what I'm saying, but it seems to be connected to what you're saying about you're not sure. Yeah.
I think people do still keep hunting and keep gathering. There's a lot of conversations that will be going on in this field, in this festival, of people who have come not because they knew absolutely every band and every musician who's playing, but because they want to find a new thing or stumble over a new thing. And I think there's also still a lot of cultural capital to be had in introducing something to somebody. So especially in a world when it's so when there's too much stuff, having curators, I guess, of information becomes a completely different status or a completely different thing, but like the curating that goes on is really different from like the person who runs the record shop in your town, who wants to also kind of shape your taste maybe as well, or that was my experience of record shops. Maybe you all have had very different experience of record shops, but that idea of, oh, you like that? That's rubbish. Listen to this instead. But there might be an intersectional thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, final thoughts?
Thanks a lot. It's been really fun.
Thank you, Anna Maria. Bye bye.
We're here all day, so come back. I don't know, I used to get really intimidated by my local record shop because I always felt I wasn't cool enough, and the records that I was asking for, were not the right records to ask for. And I just felt like this sense of, them looking down at me. It kind of put me off. It always used to be a bit scary to go into the record shop. When I was a kid, when I was a teenager.
You were saying it's an intersectional topic. Could you elaborate?
If I'm going in as like a 12-year-old girl into a record shop, which at the time would have been quite a male-dominated environment, and things like my age and my gender are going to play in how people treat me in that situation.
And how would they treat you?
Dismissively, mostly. Right. Whereas, I was curious and I wanted to learn stuff, and I was like, oh, so I've been really listening to this thing. This is really fun. What other things would be good to listen to? Like, I can look alphabetically in the stack of what's near to it, or I could look genre, but it's like, how do I do that without kind of human guides, I guess, as well.
Right. Okay. So, hello. We got some new and repeated faces. So let's say hello. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Alison.
Alison. Your names again?
I'm Cora.
Hello, Cora.
Hi, I'm Iris.
And you are
Ross.
Ross. Yeah. So I'm gonna do a round. I'm Bina. Hi, nice to have you here. This is Talkaoke. We're right now actually talking about being a 12-year-old girl and going to the record shop. Have you ever done that?
Huh?
You're not 12-year-old, probably. No. How old are you?
6.
6. Have you ever been to a record shop? No? Maybe don't remember she has?
I don't know what a record is.
Say again?
I don't know what it is.
Where you buy records?
Huh?
Where you buy records or CDs, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? Music, uh-huh. Have you been to a record shop?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I have to.
Ross took me.
Which one? Oh, yeah, did he?
Yeah.
And did you buy a record too?
No.
No? Did you listen to the music there?
Yeah.
Did you put the headphones on and listen to the music? Or just the... Yeah?
Yeah, I listened to the music on the headphones.
What did you pick to listen?
I can't really remember. It was quite a long time ago.
Did you like it or not so much?
I liked it.
Cool. Did you like the music in the shop?
Yes.
Yeah. What was it like?
It was kind of... I forgot.
Okay. So I'm gonna...
It's because my dad's a musician.
All right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So I'm gonna do a round so we all know who we are. Do you know who you are?
Yeah.
Tell us too, please.
Well, do I know who I am? I think I'm Mikey, but what does that even mean? I didn't come up with that name. It wasn't my idea to call myself
that's
Mikey.
Matt. Thank you.
I'm Rachel.
Hello.
And I'm Marvin.
Hey. So let's come back to the subject of being a 12-year-old girl and being intimidated in the record shop. Can you relate to this feeling? Have you had an experience where you were intimidated?
Shop all the time. Skype up at school and go to a record shop, or the library more often than the record shop.
But how did it feel?
Or being in the record shop? Kind of nice. Just chill, just looking at stuff. Yeah.
So you were not intimidated?
No.
No. Okay.
I'm just curious about the modern version of going to a record shop, which would be going online and an algorithm deciding that you've looked at this and suggesting this and this, I don't know the coolness factor, the prejudice that you could have got from a person before. I don't know what it is now. I know there's lots of violence.
Now, like, I don't know any 12-year-olds. They'd have their own thing, but I don't know what it is.
There's still just like there's still just the fundamental principle of, so even in I don't know, my record shop growing up, I didn't have an independent record shop. I used to get an R price in Penzance, and they were brilliant in there with us as like teenagers, but again, teenage boy rather than teenage girl. But they're really helpful and really cool and nice because they want you to buy something. The independent record shop in Sligo, they want you to buy something. The algorithm just wants you to buy something. So like, although there is like a care, but like no one ever, I imagine, even in the most cool, brilliant, independent, well-run record shop's gonna go, oh, I don't think you should buy anything today because there's nothing right here for you. They're like, no, you're getting something.
Okay.
I think there's definitely the part of like they wanted you to buy something, but there's also the thing about people wanting you to conform to what they think is cool or what they think is like the right thing for you to listen to or what they think is the thing that you should have. Like, I guess algorithms at the moment tend to push us maybe into things that aren't that like good for us, and again that's a very don't know, you know, it's a loaded term, isn't it? But
I'm going to turn you up a little.
Those people I was encountering, I guess, wanted me to like something better than Nirvana. They were like,
better than what?
Better than Nirvana. They were like, yeah, we've got you in the shop with Nirvana. We'll sell you the Nirvana t-shirt. We'll do this. We'll do that. But like, people should like better stuff than this.
And did you confirm to it? I mean, did you do what they want?
I just didn't go in the shop very much then. You know, afterwards, I didn't like that attitude.
All right.
I had difficulty with the concept of something better than Nirvana because I think the algorithms want you to buy something, and I think the way that they breed them, because they select them on data, and so the way they breed them is if you actually buy something, then that one's a success and that will carry on to breed. But sort of like with a human, you'd have the idea of this is better than Nirvana and this is something that I like more. But I don't know what I don't know. It's like, oh, you've bought something. I'm happy that you've bought something because I'm going to survive. I won't get wiped out. I don't know what that. I don't know.
I've forgotten what I was going to say now.
Really?
Maybe rewind and tell me what were we talking about?
Okay, we started off with the 12-year-old girl going to the record shop and feeling intimidated by the vendors, and now we're talking about nowadays it's not the shop vendors anymore that tell us what.
You know, I think it's easier to sort of find your niche now with the internet because you don't have to go. In a way, the record shop people are kind of gatekeepers, and they've got their own tastes and their sort of their thing. But now you don't have that with, and you know, and maybe the algorithm is better in some ways because for me it has been successful. You like this, so you like that. Especially when these days I listen to a lot of philosophy lectures, and always comes up with different suggestions that I would never have thought of myself.
All right.
For that, so in terms of like YouTube philosophy lecture videos, the algorithm does work.
Can you think of anything? Yeah.
How? Because one of the things, like, how natural is that? Are you being trained? No, but does the algorithm train you back?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can train the algorithm, like the algorithm. In our house, there's a few different algorithms. So the algorithm on the telly is like sacrosanct, right? It's not you're not allowed to watch wrestling videos on the telly. You're not allowed to wrestling videos.
So in our home. In our
hold it more like that.
In our home, our behaviours are now being like dictated by the algorithm, because with YouTube we both watch a lot of YouTube, and I'll have that thing where I'll pick up my phone and then I'll be like, you fucker, you watched one of your videos on my YouTube, like it's all, and because I started watching videos about WWF wrestling, and it just screwed my algorithm for ages, and then it becomes this thing of like, oh yeah, don't touch the telly algorithm, but then I'm like, I'm augmenting my own behaviour in my own home because the internet is kind of protecting it.
So actually, by trying to train your algorithm, you're being trained by the algorithm, right? Is that what you're saying? Okay, yeah.
Can I ask them a question?
Say again?
Can I ask them a question?
Yes, you can.
How do you guys decide what TV you want to watch?
We vote.
You do?
Explain what you do.
So we have choices on the iPad, and then we choose which one we want, and whoever has the most hands up for what they want, we have to play that game or watch that thing.
Okay.
How do you decide which of all of on the list, which one it is you want to watch?
How do you decide?
Yeah, what?
Well, you should if you want something and you want the other thing, why don't you just why don't you just watch the other thing after that you watch?
So just watch everything then. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So what are the things you like to watch? Can you think of anything you like to watch?
I can't think of anything else.
Can you?
Well,
Do you like to watch the stuff that's the same as what you've already seen, or different?
I do.
Can you repeat?
Yeah, do you want to watch stuff that kind of looks like it's the same as something you've seen before and you already like it? Or do you want to watch something completely different that you might not like?
I kind of do, and I kind of don't. So sometimes I watch the same thing, and sometimes I watch the things that aren't the same as the things that I watched before, because it looks interesting. I've watched a movie 3 times.
Which one?
The Book of Life.
The Book of Life? Of Life. Can you think of anybody else who's watched a movie more than 3 times? Which one?
Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, which one? As a 12-year-old. Which one?
Like all the James Bond as like a 9-year-old girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all
Okay.
of them. Yeah.
What's yours?
When I was a kid, I just had like 5-year Speed, the 90s one. I had that on VHS when I was a kid and just watched it.
Just go like that, hold it like that.
I think it might be that. I had Speed on VHS when I was a kid, and I just watched it over and over and over again. And even though it's not like a favourite movie, but it has a important place in my heart. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a quick round and then go back to you.
Lots. Maleficent, I've watched lots. I've watched lots of things, lots.
Possibly when I was about 17 or 18, I watched 12 Monkeys quite a few times in a row, yeah.
I've watched Alvin and the Chipmunks thousands of times.
Do you have another one?
Kind of. I've watched about 4 times over and over again Hilda.
Which one?
Hilda,
yeah. That was good.
You?
Me, I always find myself watching somehow The Big Lebowski. I've seen it so many times. I mean, it's not my favourite film, but weirdly, I always just seem to people put it on a lot. I don't know. I must have seen it 5 or 6 times.
So, yeah.
I'm really curious because I think like humans, our programming's narrative, and like the stories that we watch, which are now movies and stuff that we watch and self-select, and then what algorithm will decide what music. I don't know how we're being shaped. I don't know what's shaping us, or I think people wanted to for ages, but I don't know what's going on in the world. I don't know.
I think the only way to deal with that is to introduce as much fake news into your own algorithm as you have new news. So I might start watching some wrestling videos now just to mess it up, really, for my path.
You were saying something? No? Okay.
What I tend to do is watch. Where I work in our studio, we're like a collective, and I always watch YouTube videos on other people's accounts. So one of our guys, Rick, is like a heavy metal, and his whole it's all just heavy metal, all of it. So I'm always like doing my philosophy videos or ABBA just to fuck up his heavy metal algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was teaching some students like last year, and their like subject or whatever is digital art and technology, and their assignment that I gave them to do was to start making like supercuts of different like YouTube subcultures.
What's a supercut?
So supercut is just when you take something repeated that happens and edit them all together. So, and I asked them to try and choose either like the subculture on YouTube that they were most part of or invested in or engaged with, or one that they really wanted to understand. And what became really lovely as you went round like the 25 students in the class was just how like niche each of their interests was. So there were some who recognised each other's things, and then there was other people who were like, what is this? What are these videos? Like, I've never encountered one of these in my life. So like the guy who's always looking at heavy metal now will just be like, what is this that comes up? I have never encountered this in my life. And I wonder if there are like strategies to also do some of that. So how can you like infect your algorithm with a bit of randomness? So not even the thing of making your own decision, but how do you click the like random page button?
And that will be in order to broaden the bubble that you're living in, or
maybe also just to remind you of the bubble that you're living in. So like none of those students really felt like they were isolated in what they were watching or engaging with. They thought that they were engaging and participating just exactly the same as everyone else in their class. You know, they were like, yeah, you know, we're all similar age, we're similar kind of people, blah, 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 like this kind of thing.
I mean, I think the social media companies have got a huge responsibility here to actually get people out of their bubble, as you said, and it's like it's become a huge problem for extremism, nationalism, right-wing politics, left-wing politics even, that we just get reflected back all the things that confirm our identity, and that's because of the way the algorithms work, because they're maximized for eyeballs and they're not maximized for social gain or social good or understanding other people. And that's the social media companies know that, and they'd rather have a divided world where they sell more copies of whatever they're selling or get more advertising than a more united world, which I think is really shameful.
You could just have like a you could just have like a
Can you hold it yourself?
Sorry. You could just have like a YouTube like account exchange. So have like a little sort of internet forum where you kind of go like, right, Melvin, here's my login, I'll have yours. And then just for a week we just watch each other's YouTube for a week. And there's no, and the rule would be like no reverting to your things. So just like, yeah.
That's a cool idea.
Because I would dispute the thing about the social media, well, YouTube says responsibility, because I think from YouTube's standpoint, the algorithms that they're letting evolve want to see if you watch things, but they don't want you to watch just the same things, so they throw in the algorithms that they do now, they throw in other random things. But like the morality of a YouTube algorithm, I've got no idea what that is, and how an algorithm would try and decide what was best for a human, because like our attitude towards the well-being and what's good for a chicken or a pig or a cat, like for things that are at least vaguely like us is very different from what it is for us. But I don't know what an algorithm's. I've got.
Okay, can you hold that thought for a second because you were first?
No, I was just thinking about if you have to, you should be obliged to sort of access something a little bit different. So I'm kind of thinking, there's an alternative screen, and maybe as you pick to watch one main thing, like you have to watch something completely different afterwards, or maybe it's like, now for something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, for Brexit, for example. When you've got, I was just googling Jacob Rees-Mogg because there's this very funny video of him, Mogmentum. It's very funny. Look it up yourself. But then suddenly I was got all this Brexit stuff. There's all this kind of pro-Brexit videos about, like all the Europe's conspiracy and all this kind of stuff.
Can I ask who's the guy who you?
He's like this old school. He's like a guy that sort of is like actually the son of a lord who's an MP. Who's kind of come from the 19th century and he still exists somehow in this weird bubble. But he's got this following on YouTube, believe it or not, and called Mogmentum.
Okay.
But anyway, if you Google that, then you get all of this stuff, and it was a complete eye-opener to me. But what I'm like, when I watch Stephen Fry, reassuringly tell us why Brexit is bad, it should at the same time bring up this other stuff, and vice versa. So that's how it could work. So you get the other side, whatever, when you Google this is what the Guardian thinks about the environment, then have Nigel Lawson telling you that it's all a conspiracy. And so mix it up a little bit. YouTube could easily do that.
Okay, we got a new face at the table. Hello there, can you say your name and we're going to do a round?
Claire.
Hello Claire.
Mikey.
Matt.
Rachel.
Alison.
Melvin.
Ross.
Iris. Cora.
And I'm Bina. Right now we're talking about how we can reteach the algorithms, maybe, or counter interact with the algorithms. Hello, we got more new faces. Can you tell us your names, please?
Peter.
Arthur.
Hey there, I'm Vina. We're talking about algorithms right now here at Talkaoke. And can you still think of your thought? You look like you do. Great.
Yeah, I've held it.
Perfect.
So Mikey was just saying about this thing of if you see the pro video, you should also see the anti video, or the both sides. And I kind of wonder whether that's also part of the reason that Brexit has actually been facilitated to happen. So the idea that with the BBC in their coverage of issues or talking about different things, they, if you have somebody who's talking about climate catastrophe, you also have to have somebody that's a climate denier, and you're just what? Why do we have to take binary versions, and why could it not be okay, here is a round table of loads of different things rather than pro or not? I think it's, the binary thing is really dangerous.
Are you leaving?
Yeah, I'm going to go watch these guys for a bit.
Quick final thought.
On the algorithm things, obviously every person is now a data set being sold to. It'd be nice if you could flick a button on the internet to just go right, you think I'm this, and this. Algorithm, just make me be the opposite, and just see how the person with the opposite political view, opposite sexuality, opposite gender.
Meet your opposite.
Just go on their internet for an afternoon and broaden your horizons.
It's almost like a kind of cross-dressing or something like that. But I totally agree with you about the binary thing. It's not binary, and the same here. It wouldn't be the opposite view. It would just be a different view. It would be like suddenly going out into the world as a different person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you wanted to say something?
What you were saying about the narrative and the BBC and stuff. I think the people that have controlled the narrative, that's power. That's at one point it was religion, say Christianity, when nobody could read and stuff. But now it's it's an algorithm on the internet, and sort of so who decides that you want a well-balanced argument, or as opposed to an argument that's this way or that way, or I don't know who decides that. I don't know who's... Well, the companies have got the power to, but I don't know yeah, it's like that's a. And then also most people, lots of people, how they make their decision-making process is based on information that they've got from somebody that they respect and they think is true, which is nowadays is the internet or the television and stuff, and that has an influence. I don't know, all of it's like, oh, that's a bit confusing.
Yeah. Like watching the Guardian journalist, whose name I can't remember, who was first doing the kind of expose on Cambridge Analytica, like one of Caroline Cadwallader, it's a brilliant name, and one of the things that she talks about is the first hunch that she got that something was going on that she might need to investigate, was speaking to a woman who was supporting like the Leave campaign, or supporting Leave or wanted to vote Leave, and she just said, "Oh, why is that?" And she went, "Well, it's because of all of these people that are coming from Turkey." And then the woman, the journalist was just like, "What do you mean all of these people that are coming from Turkey?" "Oh, I saw it on Facebook," and this idea that this kind of private walled garden is open actually to the highest bidder, so it's less maybe about the framework of it and more about how that framework can then be used by people who are in those positions of power, who do have like financial wealth, might, in that kind of sense.
I think that everybody around the table here has been talking about being conscious of being informed in some way through some automated process. And I kind of wonder whether it's easy to not take responsibility for what it is that you believe or what it is that you read or what it is that you listen to, and go, oh, well, these are the choices and I don't make choices anymore and I lack I don't have the skills, and I'm not sure that's true. I think maybe people are quite lazy and it's quite easy to blame somebody else or some other thing for what you perceive to be problematic, and not just other people's choices but also your own. So I don't know.
Are you saying it's easier today to blame?
No, I suspect it's always been like that, but I think just because you know that there are algorithms that advertise on things, no one makes you buy. You decide to buy stuff, you decide to click on stuff. If you're conscious of it, you know how, or you can work out how to find out other things. It just depends how much you want to do that.
Just kind of like building on that point, but also what you were saying earlier about who actually decides to, what we're given. I think actually it comes down to, like, from their commercial point of view, they're giving us what they think we want, and they're giving us what we kind of click on. So it's like, if we see, I think it's on Facebook or YouTube, if ever I'm watching something, it just shows me something that like millions of other people have clicked on, and it's usually something kind of sensational or, and it's so, you go, oh, that sounds intriguing, and you kind of, I often think, and then I always say to myself, no, I'm not clicking on it, I'm not getting in the game of, but how many other people are doing that? No, most people will probably go, oh yeah, that looks interesting, and watch it. And that's why it gets all these clicks, and like people are making money out of it from advertising. And so it's kind of like self-perpetuating, and I guess at some point, somebody needs to take a slightly different approach. And I know Facebook kind of talks about trying to kind of like re-engineer things, but then that, then it's them like deciding what they think we should want, which goes back to what you were saying. Anyway, it's mine.
I've forgotten what I was going to say now. I think we are more critical now, at least what I hear around the Talkaoke table, because people are aware of it much more, and that your view is just another constructed view, and that's the first step, I think, in understanding it. But it's so easy, the temptation to go shallow, because it's it really takes an effort to think about, do I really know that? Am I really right about what I think? It's really hard just to question yourself, especially when someone's telling you something, and I think with the Brexit thing especially, it's like, oh, those stupid old fuddy-duddy imperialist you know, whatever it is, like lack of education, and it's like really, that's like, it's really making you feel kind of great about who you are, and you know, you're much more intelligent and like open-minded and all these things. And it's so hard just to sort of like go a bit deeper down and think, you know, well, what are the real reasons for this, or you know, what am I wrong about what I think? Do you know what I mean? So at least we're starting to think about that rather than just going, you know, I remember when I was a bit younger before social media, you just thought Tories were twats, but now you try and think a bit more about why the Tories are twats and, you know, what the information going around is.
Okay, we got a new face at the table. Hello there. I'm going to first make the round and then you say your name, yeah? Okay, so I'm Bina, hello. This is Talkaoke. We're right now talking about how the algorithms shape the public media, public opinion maybe, and how we can kind of counteract by shaping them in if there are ways to shape them. So
Mikey,
Matt,
Rachel, Alison,
Peter.
hello. Just say your name. Who are you?
Cressida.
Libby.
Arthur,
Melvin.
Judy,
Hey, Judy.
Claire.
Okay, so yeah.
I was going to agree, I think, completely with what you're saying. I think, like, so much energy's been put into persuading people.
Give it a final thought. Just to say goodbye. Just a final thought.
I was thinking about advertising. All of the stuff with links and always leads down to advertising you something you're going to buy and the choice about whether to buy it. And I talk to my daughter who's here about on the radio quite a lot and on the telly being able to work out what's an advert and what she's quite little on what's and being able to recognise what an advert is and having a conversation about advertising is trying to sell you something that you probably don't need, and then you look at it and it looks amazing, but when you get it, it's not as good as it looks. And just being conscious of what that process is and being able to spot it when you see it is something that maybe is more important now, because the distinction between advertising and not advertising is kind of a bit more blurry. And anyway, that was what I was thinking about.
Okay, thank you.
I think she's answered a question I didn't even realise I had. I was going to say I was agreeing with you that loads and loads of money and energy is put into persuading you that maybe I've got more authority and what I'm saying is more valid, and that you should trust the opinion that you're being fed from me as opposed to actually working something out for yourself. But that lady, I think, probably is the answer to that.
So the answer is that the advertising is the boundary, the barrier between advertising and not advertising.
I think she was saying that the skill to be able to differentiate what if it's somebody's trying to sell you something, and I don't know what you do beyond that, but I don't know. Yeah, it's.
But okay, so if we didn't have Facebook or algorithms, do you think people develop these beliefs because of something that they've read, or do we gravitate towards narratives that appeal to us? Because I think we're kind of inherently like that. We're kind of tribal, you know. So I know on Facebook it's like an echo chamber. I know where to go to find the opposite opinion, but in my life I'm gravitating towards people who I guess share the same kind of roughly the same belief systems as me. So even if we didn't have all this kind of influence through social media and advertising, we'd still gravitate towards these. So the people that are saying, well, you know, it's a problem with immigration and all the Turkish are coming, they've found that, but that's something they've probably always believed anyway. I don't think that's like planted that thought in their mind.
I mean, if you said that to people here in Supernormal, they'd go, oh great, you know, we can have men for breakfast now, and you know, or it's like, oh, I really love a dolma, you know, something like that. It'd be a prejudice in its own way, but it would be much more positive, because that wouldn't, the hordes of Turkish coming over would be more viewed in a more positive light. But that just because a lot of people come from Dalston, where you can get a very nice, you know, kebab or falafel or whatever.
Thanks. I was just going to say something about the fact that my kids, like, are, in terms of the advertising question, so Cressida likes watching, like, kids opening toys, and they're obviously getting paid for it, there's a whole industry of these children getting paid, and they get like YouTube hits. They get sponsored by like the toy companies. They open all these toys on YouTube. Kids watch them opening them on, and this is like instead of TV. So I think like so coming back to what you were saying, I think in the past we would have watched an advert on TV, and you would have seen it, and you might really love this thing, but you're not getting fed advert after advert after advert, and that's all you ever watch is adverts effectively. And you might go out in the street, and in your daily life you would come across other people. You may kind of live in a bit of a bubble yourself anyway, but I guess just being out in the street you come into contact with more people, whereas within these kind of like online environments it's easier to only come across people with the same views, and that's why I think it's a bit different. But I mean, I think all these issues have always been there, but I think it is a bit more intense like these days.
I'm really curious about this unboxing question. Can I ask you what is the most impressive thing that you've seen unboxed? Can you think of anything that you've seen that was very interesting or
stuff you like being open?
Crazy?
Do you want to say LOL dolls? Is it is it?
Or something you liked really a lot? You wanted to unbox yourself?
Talking about it?
Okay. Yeah.
I was going to say to you that I heard a quote which was nature doesn't care about the truth, it cares about survival. Sort of like, so if when you're talking about what people are attracted to, if it wasn't the media and if it wasn't the modern day, then I think you're more likely to like people that like similar things to you because they're less likely to eat you. So I think there's a survival basis underneath it all, but then on top of it we've got the human bit, but then on top of that now we've got I don't know what we've got now, all these algorithms and things being sold.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's definitely much more intensified, but I think in life we do that anyway. We gravitate towards what appeals and what makes us probably feel better about ourselves, like I'm certainly forced into some situations. I think that's the interesting thing about Brexit, because it cuts across all political divides, and members of my own family, I can't go there with them because it's so divisive, and I think that's quite common. And when I'm in that position with my family, I do have to listen to lots of things that I find really problematic, and I'm sure they find problematic. But I think in my social life, I'm not doing that. I'm choosing people that resonate with me and what I believe in. Like, I think we all do that quite naturally, and then what social media does and what advertising does is really, really obviously prey upon that. But I think it's a natural human instinct to gravitate towards those reassuring narratives about ourselves.
So just picking up on that, really, I totally agree that, naturally we're drawn to people who have the same views from us. It's just that social media enables and amplifies that, enables you to find those people much more easily, and that's fine if your view is a moderate, nice, whatever, define that. But for extremist views, violent extremism, whereas previously there wouldn't be a place for that in it'd be very kind of isolated. Social media creates a platform, either the mainstream or the kind of more niche platforms. So I think it is the crisis of our time that we need to find a way to address this, and I don't think the answer is to I think regulation by governments of these platforms is useless, but I think, because which governments? But I think the key thing actually is where they're getting their money from, and so that plays into the advertising point as well.
So how could we regulate that?
Well, I think it needs to be regulation in terms of how they're funded, and that's something that I think that is something that can be done across platforms.
Okay, you first, and then you were first.
Was I? I think other people had went up way before me. I think other hands.
Oh, all right.
I'll happily go. It'll be all right. So I guess one of the things that a lot of those online spaces lack is the social policing that happens when people are in groups. So the kind of norm policing that goes on, so that to be amongst a group of people and express something which is or isn't the norm for the rest of that group can be quite socially very difficult thing to do. And there's like a really positive side to that. There's a massively positive side to that, where it's about unhelpful policing that goes on and how we counter that. But also then there's the flip side of that, which is like the group of people who are like-minded when in the social situation, like the online facilitated social situation, that there isn't a kind of mechanism there for somebody else to kind of go, what you're saying is like mad, or what you're saying is really harmful to other people, or like that kind of thing.
Oh, I was just going to disagree with my wife, who's sitting over there with the hat on. About the regulation thing, because I think it is possible to regulate, and I know the question is like who regulates. I know some people who work in Facebook and big social media companies, and they say actually that they would welcome like regulation and actually because otherwise they've got to come up with it themselves. And they, it's kind of headache, and then they're seen as the police. But in a way, if decisions are taken away from them, if like the UK, I guess with our government, it's only one country in the world. But it can, if you're the first to kind of regulate on something, other people just copy it, and then it's more likely to. You agree with me? Yeah, Cressida agrees. So anyway, that's my point. I think there maybe is a place for regulation. Anyway, that's my point.
Okay, I wanted to respond to what you were saying, but then I'll have to say something about what you're saying. That, like with the whole Brexit stuff, and like especially with divisive things, then you've got a whole load of people who've got this one side, and they talk about it amongst themselves, and point fingers violently at the other side, and the other side has this exactly the same thing, pointing fingers, but the demon that they're pointing fingers on isn't actually representative of either the other side, and there's not an actual conversation between each side, but on one side they're saying these other people are these, I don't know, whatever, but it's not just Brexit, but that pattern across the board. And then what you were saying about regulation and the technology that's doing it, I think it's the algorithms, and I'm exactly confused about like humans, like people. We haven't got any laws about artificial intelligence. I think we've had about one or two conversations at the state of artificial at the United Nations about them. There's no regulation on the actual technology we're using, let alone what their opinions are on opinions.
I mean, I do think it's like a design question. It's about how these things are designed. I mean, it's just really simple. If the more extreme thing you say, the more likes and feedback you get. And people are really desperate, especially actually right-wing, like ultra-right wing people. I've read a study recently showed that they actually really crave this attention. And so if you're you might say something like, I don't know, say for example the idea of putting a woman on one of the banknotes, which was a big controversy here. If you just say, do we really need a woman? Like that won't be. You might get 5 likes from your friends down the pub. But if you say something more extreme about that campaign, then you're going to get more likes, and therefore it actually encourages people to be more extreme. And then when they get more likes, they get reinforced. And to me, that's a design issue. Like around this table, it doesn't work like that. The more kind of incisive or clever thing you say, or the more coherent thing you say, the more attention that gets.
It kind of also is a bit like a conversation that we were having the other day about the people who do like fan TV for football clubs. So when the football club wins and does well, the views are lower for the fan response to it, rather than, like you were saying. I mean, maybe you can explain it better. That idea of like,
well, it kind of ties into what I was thinking in response to what Mikey was saying. With it's because you make money from people watching your videos and getting advertisements. Then, so particularly with kind of extreme political stuff, you get more reaction, you get more interaction, you get more views with more extreme opinions on either side. So it just comes down to a fucking the capital again of, well, I'll make more money. I'm actually intensely passionate about this aspect of right-wing politics, but I'm not going to make a video about that because that's not going to pay the bills. And it was the thing with Arsenal Fan TV, which blew up as a really popular phenomenon outside of football fandom, and it was because when Arsenal are doing badly, they make these videos of them all going mental and being really angry about it, and the views are outstanding. And then when Arsenal actually started to do better, the money they were making really dwindled because people are like, oh, I don't want to watch them analysing the game. I just want to watch the guy being angry. He's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. People don't put, often people like on YouTube don't put things on to express how they feel. It's to get what they need to carry on doing what they are doing. They put it on to get views, get advertisement, and like there are some great things out there built around what people deeply feel and are interested in, but that doesn't get them anywhere because it's not big and out there enough for people to notice it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna make a little break here. So we've been talking about how we can possibly reprogram maybe the algorithms and how the algorithms are affecting our daily lives, our opinions, political opinions, and what's going on. And so we were saying that we could alterate those algorithms, and I'm trying to alterate the algorithm right here because I need to take a break, and so we can maybe take turns here. So give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you.
Let's give Bina a big round of applause.
Thank you.
She's going to be starring in the Talkaoke Deutschaoke in Germany, in Bielefeld in September. If you're around in the area, anywhere in northern Germany, do come along to that one. 15th of September in the town square. And you know, it's a really, really good, really interesting conversation happening here. And thank you, Bina, for doing that, for getting that going. Where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk about Arsenal, and are they doing better now? Do we want to talk about the fact that, you know, we kind of we're encouraging the anger or encouraging these kind of intense responses, or something completely different? How does this work? Something like this, I think. Change the algorithm on this. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay, right. So there we go. I'm in. So let me just to do a quick circle of names. My name's Mikey. We've got Matt, we've got Bina, we've got Claire, Judy, and Melvin, and Arthur, and what was it? Peter, and Rachel. You got a point?
So, right, if anger is the thing that people want to watch on YouTube in the case of like those Arsenal videos, are there other emotions or other ways of being that are particularly like valorized or pushed up by our kind of current click on habits?
Okay, I mean, what other emotions are being encouraged here? And we got another. We got Cressida, is it? And what's your name?
Juniper.
So we're talking about, you know, what other emotions are getting heightened. Do you ever watch things on the computer? Never. Okay, good stuff. All right. Arthur, what were you going to say?
Arthur watches a lot.
Yeah. What was Arthur? Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about. I was going to say. also not just anger, it's also like sadness often.
Right.
Like you see tons of videos based on people being sad or feeling sadness or
Yeah.
watching people.
Can you give us
be
an
sad.
example? Like, I mean, how's that going to work? Isn't it a bit? People actually watch sad videos.
Yeah. There's like I went to the cinema and there was this tiny short film at the start.
Yeah.
And it was all about like people losing love and like it was based on a volcano and how he lost his lava.
Yeah.
His love.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, and everyone really likes that. Everyone who's seen
So
it,
people like sad stuff. Yeah. But is this more in cinema or is this online or is it everywhere?
Because like almost everyone, like probably everyone in the world has at one point in their life felt sadness.
Right. So
anger.
So we want to connect with the sadness. We want to connect with the anger. So why are we even watching sad films? Julie?
So I think there's definitely an element of that, like wanting to feel things that we've ourselves felt. But I wonder how much more is driven by, like when I'm looking online, it's the whole kind of clickbait stuff, like celebrity and they give you half a headline, which is, Meghan Markle, and you're like, oh, what's that about Meghan Markle falling out with the Queen? Let's click on that. So it's this kind of artificial world, the world of like celebrity, that I wonder, I think that's the stuff I see round and about, on the internet.
Okay, so it's come, I'm going to come to you in a second, Peter.
I think because as a species we're story driven, so in any story that might aid in our survival, sort of like with being sad, it's sort of like a story about somebody else dealing with sad or anger. If somebody's encountered something that will make you really angry or something that's frightening, anything that might give you a slight edge, we're drawn to any story that might help us survive. But then,
you mean like so a story that everyone's just happy wouldn't be much of a story? Is that what you're saying?
It wouldn't be that. From an evolutionary standpoint, it wouldn't be that useful. It'd be like, oh, everything's good. It's like if everything was good and something went wrong, what would you do?
Oh, so
how
what
would you
you're
get
saying
over
in
it?
a way
How would you survive if there was a monster chasing you, wanting to eat you? How did that person survive?
Okay, so in a way it's kind of training. That's when we're watching Jurassic Park, we're actually training ourselves to deal with that situation of a dinosaur. Of rampant dinosaurs chasing us or whatever. It's kind of more useful to us in our learning to find out when people are angry, when they're sad, than just simply facts. No, actually, yeah.
The scientists are saying they can bring back dinosaurs.
Okay, well, that's another subject we could go on to. We've got a new face at the table. Just quickly give us your name.
Hello, I'm Julie.
Julie, we're talking about basically we're talking about is the internet showing us loads of videos to make us angry, and that's actually making us more angry about stuff.
People who are angry.
Yeah, or of people that are angry, like for example, Arsenal supporters. But Arthur's pointing out that actually we watch a lot of films that make us sad, and then Melvin's kind of said, well, actually this is good training for us as humans. We're kind of evolved to just hear the stories and work out what makes us angry or scared, and then we learn how to deal with it. So that's why we're drawn to these things.
To feel part of a community, actually. So when you've gone through a breakup or a bereavement, you want to kind of see what else is out there, so you don't feel so on your own. I mean, I don't necessarily do it with social media, but I might listen to music, like really indulge in my emotions, and be listening to music.
Yeah. Are you feeling sad? Well, have you ever felt sad? And what's the point of it? Do you watch sad films? Why do you watch sad films? This is what we're talking about. Come on, have a seat on the table of chat. We've got Arthur, we've got Peter, we have got Juniper, we've got Rachel and Matt and Julie and they're not interested. Sorry. There we go. They don't care about our sadness.
What you were saying, it wouldn't be very interesting if there was a movie which was just everyone's fine. You can tell. You can there's a point where I've gotten to. I've watched so many movies that you can kind of tell when something bad's gonna happen, and then they're gonna have to fix this, doing a really hard thing, probably
So you think-
involving a training montage or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But and also, but then it has to get better at the end.
Right,
Because like it's fine for us to feel sad, but we have to get better.
So you have to have a little pickup at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why the fairly new Marvel movie, Infinity War, when the heroes lost, that was like a big there was a big breakthrough in like the movie series, because nothing's really been shown.
So
like
the
that
audience
before.
went away feeling a bit sad.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, well, I mean, to me, I don't. Go on. Well, so we're talking about like why we have to be sad in movies and why we watch these angry videos online, and is it kind of some kind of emotional rehearsal that we're doing?
I was just going to say that the kind of things that I see on there are like quite that get shown to me in my kind of feed are like quite shocking things, like car crash and things, and that's why I kind of steer away from them. But the thing about this thing about like narratives and stories, and like there's the point of them is like processing the information and being able to get through it. But I think with these kind of very short, like quite shocking videos that you might get shown on like YouTube, it doesn't give you
Okay, so it doesn't have that.
So you might watch one of them, and if you watch one of them, it goes, oh, you're interested in that, so we'll give you another one. So you just end up, you don't end up with any of the kind of resolution process. You just like end up same, and you're not.
You just got a series of car crashes.
Full story journey. Anyway.
Okay, so you don't have the whole kind of like, oh, I'm going to set off today, just the car crash bit, and a series of car crashes. I'll come to you in a second, but you wanted to say...
No, you're right, you just got the conflict and you don't have the the resolution of it, and the catharsis of it, like you were saying, in the Marvel films that you need.
Okay, so now when we've got this YouTube features, it's just like, just the real intense bit and that's it. And does that mean we're kind of getting emotionally abbreviated?
Not just YouTube, but think about Spotify. You play a song and then it'll make all these suggestions of like, well, maybe you'll like this. I mean, someone said to me recently they really like it because they don't have to make the choice. They can just press play and it'll just start playing music that they like.
Okay. We've got a new face at the table. What's your name?
Simon.
Simon, I knew that, but the other people didn't.
What's the conversation?
So basically we're talking about, well, in a way actually we started talking about extremism and like how somebody made a very, very good point around the edge of the table that actually these YouTube videos or the Facebook is driving us towards extremism because you get more likes if you say something more extreme or if you post something more extreme. And then Matt mentioned the Arsenal fan videos. When they were losing, they got way more hits because they had all these angry fans just getting really angry, I guess with Arsene Wenger or the other guy, what's his name? Anyway, it's not important. But then we sort of moved on and we started talking about like, this emotional heightening in videos, and Arthur mentioned that in films as well. We like to watch films that actually make us sad.
We want to empathise with people. That's what it is. It's all about empathy.
Yeah, and then Melvin came up with a point. It's a kind of emotional rehearsal. That's why we get into stories in the first place. It's a kind of, it helps us from a sort of like evolutionary perspective get into this kind of like it's a kind of like we can see ourselves in that situation and we know how to deal with it better. Rachel.
I mean, Arthur's been waiting for ages, but I'll be quick. I wonder if it is just empathy though, because part of the thing of the angry video is some people are watching that to laugh at the person's anger, and not because they feel angry themselves or because they want to feel angry, but just because they find it hilarious that somebody else feels wound up. And so that idea of like a kind of
it's a voyeurism.
A voyeurism, definitely, and how that might also shift the way we interrelate or empathise with people. Like if somebody is angry with you face to face, you can't sit there and laugh at them. It's very difficult to do.
Because you're not really getting into their. They're just going to get more angry if you laugh at them.
I think our favourite emotions are the simplest ones.
Right.
So laughter, funny, sadness and anger. They're all like...
What are the more complicated emotions?
confusion. So like, you see often on adverts, it only really shows for movies as well. People being sad, people being angry, and then people laughing, making jokes.
So it's kind of simplified a little bit.
Because you can understand why they're feeling that way and why they're saying that, because they're such simple emotions.
Yeah, okay, so it's all simplified a little bit.
I wanted to say about when you were saying about the movies and the way that the big emotions that they use. I think more subtle emotions or less melodramatic things are a lot more harder to do. But
so
I think
what is a more subtle emotion? Because we've had confusion so far.
Disagreement.
Okay.
Disagreement.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Yeah. Disagreement. Yeah.
Okay.
Ambiguity.
So in a way, it's this. Hang on a sec, Simon. I'll come to you in a second. Yeah.
So I think what you're exposed to most of the time, especially in the films and the stories that films give you, or stories that have had lots of very melodramatic emotions that have sold lots but aren't necessarily well, they might be successful, but they're not necessarily dealing with ambiguity or disagreements or how people deal with those things or other people's views on what's wonderful and stuff.
Yeah, so
but
I mean, are there movies where there's just confusion and ambiguity and like no one really knows what's going on?
Yeah, anything by David Lynch.
Okay. I mean, is that kind of dealing with something else, or is that dealing with the same emotional intensity?
He's dealing with like sort of dreamlike states. That's his thing. Yeah.
Okay,
when we experience quite complicated emotions when we're asleep, when we dream.
Okay.
I think David Lynch just really wants to mess with our heads, and I think that's great. It's like, it's the opposite of passive viewing. It's just like, basically, I'm going to offer you something, you draw your own conclusion, you figure it out. You figure it out.
Yeah.
You can't just sit there and be fed stuff.
Okay, so I mean, should social media be more like David Lynch, and what would that look like? David Lynch Facebook, Lynch book. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. We're talking about can we? It's complicated, but come and sit down and I'll explain it. Anyway,
I was thinking about what other like more subtle emotions. So like feelings of uncertainty, I guess, like that kind of thing. That's also quite a hard one to portray because it's very internal.
Yeah.
And so maybe some of those, you know, if you can't make an emoji of it, does it still exist? Possibly also.
Yeah.
Is there?
Okay, we've got a new face at the table. What's your name?
Luke.
No, I just quickly explain. So we sort of started talking about where does extremism come from? Is it about people posting stuff on Facebook? Are they encouraged to post like things that are more extreme emotions? Then we talked about why do we kind of get into these extreme emotions in social media, also on film and television, and what Arthur's kind of said, what about those more complicated and more subtle emotions? We had a few thrown out there, such as confusion, melancholy, ambiguity, regret, and stuff like that. And then Claire's mentioned, what was a filmmaker like David Lynch goes a bit more complicated. And could that also apply to social media? These are some of the questions on the table at the moment. Yeah.
I loved you just posited, could social media sort of take a leaf out of David Lynch's book? And I'd love to see that because he made, I don't know if anyone watched the Twin Peaks sequel, which he made for TV, and it's like anti-TV. Like I felt like the whole time he is really like, so some of the episodes were just like kind of boring, but you kind of wanted to stay with it. It really challenged you.
Right, okay.
And then it would be amazing, but it's like the opposite of what we've come to expect TV to give us. It was amazing.
Okay.
I wanted to say to you what you were saying about uncertainty and that being a subtle emotion, and what you were saying about people that might be voyeuristically looking at other people's anger and stuff, and like for a certain type of person, somebody else's uncertainty or anger, it would be training to deal with somebody that disagreed with you. Yeah.
I mean, it's quite hard to have that in this kind of social media battle. Somebody that's not even really sure. We don't really see that on social media. I don't know. I do know. Simon.
Yeah. Can I say something about the emotions? I don't think that uncertainty and confusion and regret are emotions. They're the product of emotions. I think the real
What,
emotions.
like a sort of like secondary colour.
Yeah. That, you know, we're talking about love and hate and anger and sadness, and these produce feelings of uncertainty and regret.
Right. Okay.
But I wouldn't call
So
regret
it's kind
an
of
emotion.
secondary.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Luke, is this making more sense, or do you want to sit in there? Yeah, you're getting it, picking it up. Yeah. So where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk about emotions and the secondary colours of emotions, or do we want to talk about this, you know, ambiguity and these bit more weirdness in social media? Could it work? And so these are some of the questions. Matt, were you going to say something?
It couldn't work if it isn't advantageous for the gathering of money for people.
Okay, so you think it's too... It's not, it wouldn't
unless you
work
can
from
create a secondary thing. This idea that we can kind of like guide and make it be what we want it to be is that the market forces,
So
the
the market-
forces of capital will
Yeah.
always drive it back into that.
The market won't support a kind of more subtle or ambiguous...
Unless it's making someone money.
Okay, I'll come to you in a second, Peter Bina.
I was wondering before when we were talking about this, why do we have to try to reprogram that pattern? Why can't we just try to invent a whole different medium?
Okay.
Why-
What medium have you got in mind?
That's difficult, but a different, like something that's not Facebook, another social media, or alternatives.
Some kind of a... What's that?
Well, that's what music and art is there for.
Yeah.
To share your you shouldn't.
Okay.
You don't have a voice if you put something on social media, because no one's actually gonna listen to what you're putting on your status. No one gives a crap.
Yeah.
So when you actually find creativity out of what you're feeling and make it into something, then you can change, like learn from it and change.
Are you a musician or an artist?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one?
But kind of
Okay.
a bit both. Mainly a musician. Yeah.
Okay, so the music in a way is about... Hang on, we need a final thought. Sorry, Peter, we've delayed you a little bit because we've had some pressing comments.
Fascinating. I think talking to other people and seeing different worlds collide, that's fascinating.
Absolutely.
Don't necessarily... Well, they might do that, but I don't know if I'd trust them.
Okay, but you trust the people around this table a bit more than algorithms?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, it took a bit of time to come up with, but eventually we got the endorsement that we needed. Peter?
I was just going to respond to, is it Simon? Matt, sorry. Don't know where I got Simon from. Your point. Oh, it's over there. There you go. I knew there's a Simon somewhere. Just about your point about like markets driving things, and I guess there's a market out there for like art house cinema, isn't there? And like I guess we're all here at Supernormal, which is kind of there's people doing stuff. Maybe they're not driven like totally financially, and but so presumably there is a kind of way out there to kind of develop maybe a different, you know, if you're looking for like more of that not completely 100% clear cut emotion.
Would
and,
we
like,
be
more of the
happy
ambiguity?
if someone like David Lynch was directing like Facebook or the film you mentioned, the Avengers Endgame, where like they had a much wider
it wouldn't make as much money. But coming back to your point about different mediums, maybe, you know, there are lots of other mediums out there, and I guess it takes more effort to kind of seek them out. It takes more effort to kind of come out and find like Supernormal and all the stuff that's going on here. It's not like your big mainstream thing. They go, all my mates are going to that. I haven't got any mates come here because they'd probably like be extremely confused. But
okay, hang on a sec, Jenny. We've got a new face to say. What's your name?
Abby.
We've got Arthur, we've got Peter, we've got Bina, we've got Matt, we've got Luke, we've got Simon, we've got Julie and Claire and Judy. At the moment, this is Talkaoke Pop-Up Talk Show. We're sort of talking about emotions in videos, and like online it's very extreme because we're kind of encouraged to do that. But what about more ambiguous things? David Lynch was mentioned, and then it was kind of like, could we import some of that kind of weirdness or subtlety or difference in a way into social media or into other formats? And Luke made the point, well, you know, in a way that's what music is for and what art is for, and that's why we're all here at Supernormal. So that's where we are right now. So just when you pick up the pieces, just raise your hand, make some kind of gesture. It could be, you know, I'm like an auctioneer you know, I can recognise the tiny things, so you don't have to be, you know, I've got you all covered. Anyway, Arthur.
What Matt was saying. So everything he was saying that everything's like based on if someone gets money for it,
Just to clarify my point, it was from that perspective of those very large companies where people are like, oh, can we regulate Facebook or YouTube or something like that? But then, like Bina said, it's about finding a different environment to express.
Okay, so not everyone's a huge. Not everyone's a huge company. Supernormal PLC is not like such a huge company.
I'm not that resigned to the capitalist system destroying everything.
Okay, well, what are you saying?
Like, I heard something quite a while ago. Everything that humans do is to make them feel better in a way, to make them feel happier. So like, they make friends to make them feel happy. They earn money. They get a job to make them feel happy.
Yeah.
They do try and do well in what they like because it will make them feel happy.
Does it work?
I don't know. I mean.
Yeah.
But that's like when you've got almost everything, like and friends, like you just want to get more money so you can become better because that will make you feel happy.
Right. Okay. So it's like an ongoing thing. It's not like you don't get there. You have to keep going with all the work and the doing other things and keep going until you end up finally at Supernormal Festival. Final thoughts.
Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me.
It's lovely.
Okay.
It's nice. I think rather than thinking about like cash as your currency, maybe thinking about time as your currency might be an interesting idea.
Okay, well that is a good one, but I think we would need you to throw a bit more onto that fire and come back. We might be talking about it later on. I don't know if other people want to pick that up, Simon?
Yeah, it's really interesting what you were saying about people just want to be happy, but I'm not sure that money is the cause of that. A lot of people get obsessed with making money, and that's just about making money so they can buy things. And
what makes you happy, Simon?
Well, it's people. It's people.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to learn that, but it's people. It's not things, it's not jobs, it's not houses, it's people.
Okay.